Hello and welcome to my video on how to go from Sportsman to 3D in one summer. 5 steps. And these are steps that I used that got me flying 3D fairly quickly. My background is as Sportsman flyer, obviously, for many years, and no one taught me how to 3D fly because no one at my club flew 3D. So I did this all on my own, and I thought it'd be a good idea to make a video to put some of the things that I found very helpful to help other people out there that have been looking at the 3D and thinking, that'd be fun to do that, but how do I do that? So here we go. Some prereqs. If you're flying Sportsman, obviously you need to be able to consistently take off and land and loop and roll. If you haven't mastered these 2 things, you will find 3D flying very difficult. And when I started looking into 3D flying, I was wondering, well, what is it exactly? And a good place for me to start was Wikipedia. And I know this isn't probably the best place to start for anyone who is really into flying, but for those of us who are just kind of on the fringe looking at 3D aerobatics, it's a pretty common place to go for information, so I thought I'd start there. So here it is, the definition. 3D aerobatics, or 3D flying, is a form of flying using flying aircraft to perform specific aerial maneuvers. They are usually performed when the aircraft has been intentionally placed in a stalled position. That's what really got my attention. I love when the planes look like they should be falling out of the sky and they keep on flying. Really cool. So, okay, well, now we know what 3D aerobatics is. Well, what does that look like? So it also has a list of 3D maneuvers on Wikipedia. Obviously these are not all the maneuvers, but we all need a place to start. So there's the good old bread and butter hover at the top, torque rolling, elevator, wall, and there's some definitions there. So this is a good place to start. I wouldn't recommend trying to start off with a Harrier roll. This is probably one of the most difficult maneuvers to master. There are many maneuvers. I think my list on my phone is about 40 so far that I am trying to work on, but this is a good starting point. So you can think about these maneuvers or add some other ones that you would like to try and work on them. So let's get to it. Tip number 1. You want to 3D fly. The most important thing, I think, is plane choice. So there's some good practice planes on the internet. The most important thing is they need to be tough. You will crash a lot, and a quick fix in the evening will keep you flying the next day. You don't want to spend a week or so repairing your plane. I suggest electric planes. They have a superior power to weight ratio, especially in the smaller sized planes, the 48-inch, and there's lots and lots of choices out there for that size. Electric power also gives you immediate throttle response. I flew a little bit of nitro back in the day, and you don't get that immediate throttle response, which will get you out of sticky situations pretty quick. They're also lighter than glow gas for the same size, which will allow you to pull out of a bad situation. It's amazing what you can get out of because they're so light. And there's no wasted time with engines won't start. Sometimes I'm at the field, I get 2 flights in, and one of the other guys hasn't even gotten up yet because they're messing around with their motor. So I like to be up in the air a lot. Cheap. So electric foamies are very cheap, and this will reduce the fear of crashes, which I think is pretty key in the hobby. We spend a lot of money on this hobby, and if you're afraid to crash, you will hinder your flying quite a lot, in fact. So if they're cheap, why not have 2 or more cheap practice planes on hand? And you will experience almost no downtime. I'm all about no downtime when I'm flying. I want to be up in the air all the time. And I find having redundancy really, really helpful. Crashing is not very fun, and it takes a lot of time away from the few precious hours that we have in a week to get out flying. So, cheap and redundancy. A lot of people think that just putting a big motor on, say a slow stick or a Cub, I've heard guys say this, I'll just put a big motor on it and I'll be able to hover. 3D is all about, yeah, you do need the power, but you also need the big control surfaces. So make sure you have a 3D plane. Your control surfaces need to be really, really big. You have more control over the plane, and yeah, the plane needs those big control surfaces because you're in a stalled attitude a lot of the time, and when you're hovering, you're not even moving through the air. So the only thing going over your control surfaces is the prop wash. Also note, if you have enough power to hover, you have a big enough motor. If you have to dive to recover, then you have the wrong plane, and I read that somewhere on the forums. I thought that was a pretty good tip. Okay, so number 1, practice plane. Cheap, easy to repair. Number 2, make sure you have a good simulator. When trying a new maneuver, I find you save a lot of time just practicing the sticking on the simulator before going out to the field. It's amazing how much time it takes for you to get a feel and put your thumbs and train your thumbs before you get out to the real thing. But more importantly, I need to see what the plane does when something goes wrong, so I can react accordingly to recover my plane, because I don't want to crash. I don't like fixing my plane. I want to be flying. So a simulator is really important, and this also builds confidence, and it reduces a lot of wasted time out on the field. Number 3, treat learning 3D like school. So you want to learn something, we need to study, read, watch videos, pick an instructor. So for example, my favorite instructor, which I learned most of my stuff, is this fellow here, Boondock from 3D Hobby Shop. He does some really great instructional videos where you can watch his thumbs on the sticks, and he talks you through it, and real life playing out there. The other one I like is Whamsy. So this fellow does simulator tutorials. So you can watch his stick movements on the little stick here and watch what he does in the simulator. So there's either or, and there's a couple more that are out there, but I suggest you pick a couple to study from. You can learn a lot from these guys. Like I said before, I didn't have anyone at the field teaching me any of these maneuvers. So find yourself a guy online and watch and learn from them. They're awesome. Number 4, fly with a purpose. I see so many people, and there's nothing wrong with just flying around, but if you're not always learning something, your flying will never improve. So what I do is I keep a list of notes on my phone on all the maneuvers that I want to work on. I review the sticking for a particular move that I want to practice, and read over some of the hints that I find help me right before I take off. So if you're watching me at the field, I'll have my plane ready to go, and then I'll take out my phone, and I'll have my head down reading my phone before I take off. And I find that this really cuts down on wasted flying time. So there's some notes there. I want to do a knife edge spin, and I have some notes. I want the sticks not quite into the corners, not quite to the left. I want to use my high rates, just some notes, and then I go up and practice, because sometimes you forget, especially if you're trying out different planes or you have more than one plane that you're practicing with. They're a little bit different, right? So a quick note to yourself before you go off, and you're like wondering what were the sticking movements again, and there's half your flight just wasted. So fly with a purpose, and this will be very efficient on your time in the air. And number 5, obviously, is stick time. All the best hints and tips in the world won't make up for stick time. So get out there and fly, fly, fly. If you're flying electric, a 4-way multi-charger is a must. I have a 4-way multi-charger. In fact, I have that one plus another one. I can have 5 batteries charging at all times, and it keeps me up all day long. If you're flying gas or glow, make sure your engine is well tuned and you're not monkeying around with it for half the day. Fire it up and off you go. So you want to be flying, not on the ground all the time. And try not to let too much time go by. It's amazing how fast your thumbs get rusty. For me, my absolute length of time that I can't let go by is 2 weeks. So I like to go at least every week to get some flights in. Oh yeah, and once you get into 3D flying, it's very addicting. So you'll be getting a lot of stick time. So there's a couple more tips, just things that I thought about. Obviously, keep it high. Lots of altitude will allow for lots of mistakes. Set some realistic goals. You don't want to be doing some very complicated stuff right off the bat. Start it slow. 1 torque roll, 3 revolutions of rolling Harrier. A few second hover. Commit to practicing a lot. A lot of people have a lot of hobbies that they spread their time out on. This takes a lot of time to master, especially if you want to do it in one summer. Practice doing all your moves into the wind. I find it's a lot easier and things don't go as wrong if you're flying into the wind. Have lots of spare parts around. It reduces downtime. You don't want to wait for that part in the mail, a week, 10 days, a month for a spare part. And also watch these instructional videos. Your instructors online, even this video, watch it a few times. It's amazing. When you watch a video a couple times, you'll hear something that will help you a second time. Alright, so here's my flying after 2 summers. I wasn't able to put it on this video, but if you search 3D Flying Season 2, Illicit Maneuvers, Demo Part 1, that's me after 2 summers. So thanks for listening, and I hope this helps. Good flying.